Hi, everyone, and welcome to another podcast on Realtor Talk. I'm here today with one of my friends and ex-colleagues, Mr. Sikander. Thanks for coming on today.
Anytime, Lloyd. Thank you so much, man. How are you doing? How are you keeping?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Good, thanks. Looking forward to lockdown being eased a bit more in the future, but just getting on with business like you are.
Yeah.
For,
Things have started picking up though over the
yeah,
past week. You are seeing some transactions, whether it's a pipeline transaction from February, March, or if it's a fresh piece of business, whether it's a rental or a sale. I feel things have started moving because people will always need to rent or sell their property irrespective of the time.
exactly.
So, I mean, yeah,
People need somewhere to live at the end of the day. They need a roof
absolutely,
over their head.
absolutely.
Just for anyone who's listening or watching, why don't you introduce yourself, explain who you
Yeah.
are and how you got into real estate?
My name is Sikander Aziz. I am part of the Eon Crystal Real Estate family. I have been since 2017. I started investing in real estate back in 2006. And funny enough, the real estate that I work with right now is the ones that sold me my first property. Uh, it was funny. You also had a small stint with us, Lloyd, back in the day, and now you've moved on. But yeah, I've always been involved with real estate, hospitality, or construction. So it's always been in the same sphere for me. Uh, from 2006 end when I came back from university all the way to date. So that's it.
So yeah, you've been living this life for a long time then. Well, you said
Oh yes.
you said you were working in like hospitality and construction before. How have you like transferred that experience into working as more of a broker role?
Yeah. To be very honest with you, I was handpicked by a billion-dollar family back in the day. They owned the major chunk of hotels within Pakistan. They had stints all over Africa and the US. And he transformed me from a broker into a hotel operator, as I would call it, because I started by selling hotel space. And it came naturally because when you're renting or selling an apartment, and fresh out of university, I was thrown in as a leasing manager at a friend's firm. So there was a lot of information to be processed, but I had a team back then. Then I became an individual who was working as a part of a team, but I wasn't selling real estate. I was selling hotel space. Uh, the only thing that uh, translated for me to make things simpler was that because I was able to sell rental or sales space before in different areas in Dubai with two developers, selling hotel space per night or per month or 6 months or per year, because hotel spaces are furnished, it became natural. And by the end of 6 months, I became the top performer because I started selling hotel space to people who wanted not only a monthly or a 6 month contract. I started heading 12 contracts for 1 year for particular rooms in the hotel. So, yes, I got noticed by management, and that's how I rose the ranks.
Okay, so that's how you got into it. And obviously you've been in the industry a long time. What's your favorite part about working in this industry?
To be very honest with you, one thing I keep telling myself every day, which keeps me going, every day is a new day, because you never know when you're going to meet which client or when you're going to get into a new opportunity, because real estate allows you to mingle with people from all walks of life. But having said that, you never know when you're going to walk into which particular scenario. And being in real estate, you have to be on the heartbeat of the market. You have to be on your toes at all times. You have to be well informed. This translates a broker into having a lot more engaging conversations with individuals, as you likely know yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you meet different kinds of people, all different walks of life, and I think that's more amplified here in Dubai. Because
Yeah,
if I think you're working in a different city, then you'll be meeting the same nationalities or the same types of
of
people.
course.
Here in Dubai, you meet all different nationalities, places that you've never visited, so you get to engage with them and learn a lot more about the world and be able to share that with other people as well.
Well, absolutely. I mean, just like any other melting pot, I mean, we couldn't have imagined this 15, 20 years ago, calling Dubai a melting pot. Because I remember uh, family and friends in the US, in the UK, all over Europe, us telling them, I come from Dubai, and they're like, what's Dubai? And
Yeah,
then as you slowly see over the past 2 decades, or even over the past 2 years, you'll have multiple people keep coming into this place we called home or my Dubai, and they just want to make it a lifestyle and they just want to hang around. So you'll always see this population growth over here.
yeah, definitely, and we're seeing it
Yeah.
all the time, especially after this situation at the moment. I think people are going to realize that Dubai's handled the pandemic really well when you consider it in comparison to other countries in the world, and they'll see it as a safe place with good healthcare, somewhere that people want to relocate and raise a family.
No, absolutely. I mean, the way the government and the highnesses have handled this situation right now, where I don't know if you're aware with the current stats, but about 20% or just under 20% of the entire UAE population has been tested, and they are going to go with full force and try to finish it within the next 45 days to everyone in the UAE being tested. So, and the way they're doing this sanitization works day in and day out. I mean, it's for us expats, right? Because we're the ones who make this city churn.
Definitely, yeah. They're definitely looking after everyone here in the city, and the testing is, I think, per capita, yeah, one of the highest in the world. So
Yes.
that's going to be important going forward as the economy in the country tries to reopen to the rest of the world as well. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
in terms of, you're talking about your favorite part about meeting people, what's your least favorite part? And be honest.
Oh, least favorite part, as you would right so call it yourself, it's the wait game. It's the anticipation because if you've gone and done your job, uh, you can't really put a gun to your buyer, seller, your rental, the next person coming in. It's the wait game that kills you because you just have to patiently sit it out. Whether it's a rental deal or it's a multi-million dollar or multi-million dirham deal, you just have to wait it out. Because in this game, what I've learned is you can't push anyone over the edge. I mean, you can advise, you can't push because the pushers are the ones who will happen to have one or two deals and they're out of the game. So if you want longevity, you have to patiently ride it out. So yes, I would say it's the wait game.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a fine line between being too pushy, isn't it? And there's a lot of agents
Oh
out there
yes,
who do that. They're trying to push, and the clients don't like it. But yeah,
of
that kind of
course.
feeling is like that anticipation, definitely. But when it does go through, then it is a euphoric feeling that you get of closing a
No,
deal.
no. Oh, 100%. No, I'll give you a small example. I mean, we work together. You know my style of work and how rowdy and rough I can get. But one of the deals that I did about 2 years ago, it was one of my rental clients who was paying me about 130,000 on the palm, and I assumed that he wouldn't be up to purchasing anything in the UAE. He's just a rental, he's just one of those consumers who's going to stay a couple of years in an apartment building and leave. Uh, I pitched him something in downtown. Next thing I know, he ends up buying just under 15 million dirhams from me.
Okay.
And 3 years ago, the payment plans were a lot more rigid than the ones we had right now. So, you keep learning. It's evolution on a daily basis with the brokers. So, patient, and you got to keep moving and learn.
Yeah, for sure. You always have to. There's always something new, a new offer out, a new project coming out,
Absolutely.
and there's always
Yeah,
something new to learn. And you can never, like,
absolutely.
say, judge a client by your initial first impressions of them. I've learned that many times.
Yes.
Um, you
Yep.
know,
Yep. Yep.
you can have that kind of stereotype of people, or when you first speak to them, but then the ones that maybe you least expect sometimes being the best the best
Oh,
clients
yes.
you have.
Oh, 100%. 100% agreed.
Well, you've been around the block, Siki. Do you have like what's the most crazy experience that you've had with a client when making a deal?
To be very honest with you, I sold $1 million apartment over WhatsApp. I mean, I'll be honest with you, that, and I won't lie, because that person, that individual, has now purchased 4 more properties from me.
Mhm.
But the first time I ever had an experience was selling over WhatsApp, and it was literally him asking me, "Is the apartment available?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm not going to tell him the building is just launched and there's 15 apartments available, but he chose the best apartment in the building. I sent it to him and he responded back in 2 minutes and he's like, "I'll take it." And I was in shock. I'm like, is this one of those rubbish, pods or, bots which you get online that will
Yeah.
just buy anything and then you find out there's. So, yeah, I mean, 30 minutes later, paperwork done. And I was back in my office with uh, all the paperwork done, thinking to myself, what just happened? 6 months later, he ended up buying from me again. And by the third apartment, he flew down to Dubai from Australia. And I was just sitting opposite him and saying, it's a pleasure to meet you finally after a year, but 3 properties later. So, yeah, selling over a WhatsApp in a 3-minute conversation, it was one of the crazier deals. Yes, not too big in value, but yes, it was strange. 30 minutes, slam bam, you're done.
Yeah, that's unusual, but it does
Yeah,
happen. There's plenty of
it
people.
does happen. Exactly, 100%,
But yeah, you
100%.
get that.
But I mean, yes, it did sorry, it did happen about 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So yeah,
Yeah, it's not necessarily the most usual thing, but yeah, it can happen.
yeah.
Most people are usually asking 101 questions, as you probably know.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so that's an example of when you've had like a good deal, a quick transaction, but we've all had like big deals that have fallen through, and that waiting game that you've talked about earlier. How do you personally deal with that disappointment and just keep moving forward?
To be honest, I have learned the hard way. I was very fortunate at about the age of 22, fresh out of uni back in Dubai. I'd already gotten about 6 months real estate experience with a bunch of friends of mine who were developers back in the day. And we managed to structure about a 1.1 billion dirham deal, which Dubai now knows as the Dubai Land Roundabout. There was Arjan, Mizan, Livan. There were 3 huge plots. And we ended up selling it, 4 of us agents grouped together, opened a real estate company, ended up selling that space to an Indian developer. The payments made to date were about under 400 million dirhams. But us, as 4 young, hungry Thundercats, who were all in our early 20s, I mean, 21 to 23 max, there was a local, there was a Saudi, there was an American, and myself. And we structured the perfect deal, and we were all going to end up making just over $2.3 million, which is roughly about 8 million dirhams. Deal happened, paperwork happened. Unfortunately, the buyer defaulted, and we only ended up receiving a fraction of our commission. So, yes, it was very difficult at that time because about 6 months of our own savings had been put into setting up this company, making sure the deal goes through, setting up an office, the whole 9 yards for this particular deal, but it never went through. So we learned. Apart from that, there was a hot time in 2009 where business bay plots were getting snapped up, and we had a couple of bad stints even back then. What I usually do is and like you called it, pick yourself and move on. I've always been, in line with the mantra. You got to keep moving. You can't stay still. You've seen it yourself when we've spent time in the office. You'll never see me sitting in one place. And it's not about a big deal or a small deal. I'm in it for the deal itself. I mean, yes, everyone likes commission, but uh, 5 out of 10 times I let go of commission just so the deal is done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my theory.
Yeah, you'd rather get the transaction done than have
Oh, yeah.
hang-ups on not closing it in the first place.
Yep, yep.
And then what do you do when you close a deal? Do you tend to reward yourself for the effort you've put in? What would you like to do?
Lloyd, you know better. I reward myself irrespective all the time. But no, I mean, yes, it comes with maturity. Yes, if you were to tell me this, like I told you, I mean, I was in real estate before I moved into the hedge fund and the hospitality group. So yes, 21 to 22-year-old Aziz, yes, I mean, there were times where we literally got our commission and went straight to the airport. I disappeared for 7 days in a row. I disappeared for 3 days. We actually flew down to Vegas for 2 days, New York for a day. We've done things like that. But the mature Aziz, no, I wouldn't. But yes, I do enjoy the finer things in life. I do travel a lot. Yes, I do reward myself, but it doesn't have to be a deal in order for me to reward myself.
Okay, so
So
yeah, I understand. I get you, Siki.
you
Yeah,
understand what I mean?
yeah, you have to enjoy life at the same time as working
Of
hard. I think
course.
the best way to do it. Okay, I wanted to ask you also about Offplan, and I know you specialize, obviously working with you before in the company you work for, Ian and Trissel. You guys focus a lot on the Offplan market.
Yeah.
What do you think is the popularity is going to be of the Offplan market in the short term with the current situation and with the secondary market prices at a kind of low point at the moment?
Uh, well, to be very honest with you, like you said, I have been more towards off plan from the get go. But being an investor and owning a couple of assets and being involved in the trade in Dubai for the past 12, 13 years, I am a firm believer there will always be room for off plan because Dubai itself is a growing city and the UAE is a growing country on its own. If you see year on year, you've seen the growth happen in the UAE, in Dubai in particular, irrespective.
Mhm.
We always hear stories and rumors and facts that people are leaving 10,000, 100,000, 1 million people gone. But there will always be that influx of people irrespective coming in because people want to travel to new places, and Dubai has become one of those capital cities around the globe in a very short span of under 50, 60 years, as opposed to competing with other capital cities who have a rich cultural history of over 100 years. uh, will Offplan take a dip in the current scenario? Yes, I believe so. People are hesitant. People want to look at more tangible products. Will it completely be wiped out? Never, because there will always be people who want to invest in real estate and who have been investing in solely real estate. If you look at your five asset classes, gold, currency, stock, I mean, you know better than anyone, they've taken a heavy hit. Irrespective of them bouncing back within 6 months or 18 months, you would only look at yourself, even if you yourself were to park money today. And I told you, would you want to park it in an asset or would you want to park it in something intangible? Where would you put it, Lloyd?
No,
You'd put it in,
exactly.
tangible asset. Yeah. So coming back to uh, whether off plan versus secondary, I mean, yes, it is a debate, but secondary will work currently only because you've you've been enveloped by this pandemic, and I hope you all get out of it sooner than later. But once the pandemic is lifted, that means your borders have opened. That means you've got an influx of people all over again. Currently, we're only dealing with the couple of million people in the UAE and then a small amount of people in Dubai who are currently trading as well, because uh, my office has been fortunate enough to close about 6, 7 deals in the past 2 weeks, which were pipeline sale in off plan. But as you know, the experts in my office who've been doing rentals. So 2 days ago, I remember one agent doing 4 rentals in one day. And he's got a track record. He does about 15 to 20 rentals at an average a month, anyways. where he's managing over, I believe, 1,500 apartments. So there will always be room for people to move. And if you notice right now, people kept complaining there's going to be a lot of migration. People are going to move from here to there. There's a lot of price drops. Landlords are going to do this. I firmly believe there hasn't been a price blanket drop at all in Dubai. Yes, if you're going to look at 5% maximum to 8%, yes, this is standard. We are in times of pandemic. There's uncertainty, but I don't think we're in a real estate crisis or bubble where people should sort of panic.
Yeah, definitely. I think people are expecting there to be a lot of what they call distressed deals, and
Yeah,
I think everyone has those clients who are looking at the moment, but we're just simply not seeing the kind of level of prices going down in the market at all. They're just not available for what people think will be coming onto the market. I think that's more because the prices have been going down in any case for the last 5 years. So the prices are
absolutely.
already, well, the prices are not overinflated like they might be in other countries, which might be taking more of a hit at this point in
Yeah.
time. In Dubai, the prices are already, at the correct value because they've been corrected over the last 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me ask you in a nutshell. I mean, in a place like Dubai, you're selling a one bedroom on the beachfront. Let's say starting price is just under 1.4 million dirhams. Now, 1.4 million dirhams translates into about roughly under 350,000 euros. Where in Europe could you get a beachfront property in a capital city for 350,000? It is not happening. I mean, I've seen rundown places in Spain, in Italy. They're asking 700 to a million euros. 700,000 is a lot of money, you
Yeah.
know? And over here, there's, of course, newer technology, new construction. Yes, it is kind of man-made, but they've achieved a lot. I mean, if you look at what all they've achieved, downtown Dubai Marina, these products being the center or being the first beachfront property, uh, it's not empty. It's holding its value. Yes, it had quadrupled its value, which was a fake ceiling. But if you look at what they were sold at 15 years ago, what they're selling at currently, it's on par.
Yeah, definitely. I think people lose sight of that. They always look in the short term. So, if you're looking at what's happened in the last 5 years, then okay, oh yes, it's gone down. It's been very volatile. But if you're looking
Yeah.
long term, which you should be anyway in real estate, then you can see that the property market has trended upwards, and it will do over the long term. And also, don't forget, if you are using it as an investment, then you're getting the yields that you can get here in Dubai, which are higher than
Of
other big
course.
cities in the world. So you're actually making a large return on your investment in that time period.
No, no, absolutely. And I'll be honest with you. This is one thing I learned over all these years because I invested as a teenager back then for the family and then transitioned into becoming an investor myself. There are a lot of people who will never want to admit how much money they've made. And when I say that, I mean, there's a gentleman who bought a property in Area X for 1 million dirhams. He bought it 15 years ago. 10 years ago, that property had become 1.4. 5 years ago, the property became 1.65. Currently, the property is at 950,000. An optimistic person will say, you know what? I cashed out over the past 15 years. My property is 100% free.
Mhm.
Whereas a pessimistic person would say, oh, I lost 50,000 on what I paid. So he's not calculating all the capital he gained over all these years where he could have sold. He's
Mhm.
not taking into consideration all the rent he has eaten. He could have potentially had another property by then.
Yeah.
So it's mixed views of expats in Dubai as well as investors who are big investors as well as small investors. This is one thing which I tackle with at least once a week with people. And this is just a mindset. You just can't deal with it because uh, it's the true value and true picture. Like if you look at Emirates Living or the Greens, sold 20 years ago for 700,000 for a one bedroom. selling at about 750, 800 in today's market 20 years later. Those apartments have tripled. When I say tripled, if they were rented from day one, they have gone three folds. So that means that one apartment owner has made three apartments from that one
Yeah,
particular apartment. But it's what he does with that money, or when he entered and exited. I mean, I myself am an example because I entered Dubai Marina in 2004. I exited in 2007. I made a handsome amount. I entered Dubai Marina again in 2011 and I exited in 2015. I made a handsome amount even back then. So
yeah.
even in today's market, I mean, yes, I won't promise you those returns, but there's always capital appreciation in a decent building in a location with a reputable developer.
Exactly, yeah. You can get that ROI, and if there's any time, I think you've purchased at times just before it started to go up when the market was, more at
Yep,
a
yep, yep.
lower point. That this would be a similar time to that as well. If you're looking at how prices are, we're getting down to those kind of previous like 2008 levels. So if you're looking for a time to buy, now is a good time if you want to take advantage of that
Oh,
appreciation for
yes.
sure.
Oh, absolutely. Because there's always going to be two kinds of buyers right now. The ones which we always discuss and we've seen, which we're dealing with currently, the ones who are chasing the deal. Because if they're chasing a deal, they can be chasing a deal today, but that same deal, will it be available tomorrow or 3 months from today? That's one. Then you have those opportunities, optimistic buyers who are like, what if I wait another 3 months? Maybe what I'm getting for 10 dirhams, I can get for 9 dirhams or 8 dirhams.
Yeah.
So they're motivated, but they just need to be tipped over that, maybe there won't be any change in the status quo. Maybe it's going to be the same, or maybe we just might see an increase, or we might not have the apartments available that you desire to own.
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about matching up these people to what they're looking for and also what's actually available and educating them at the same time. You're, you're, you're,
Absolutely.
you're speaking about, we might not have what you actually want. What do you feel about the supply in Dubai? Because I think there's always that debate about, oh, there's oversupply in the market and there's not enough demand. Do you think the supply of off-plan units needs to be slowed down to allow the demand to catch up? Or is that a very generic way of thinking?
No, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I come from a very different thought process. And again, I tell our viewers that we work together. I am the most optimistic person. You've shadowed me, you've walked with me, seen how things are done. Um, yes, there might be certain times where oversupply uh, is a reality. But at the same time, it's also a question mark. Why do I say that? Because when Dubai Marina was being formed back in 2002, and at 1.6 buildings coming into the market, they didn't expect 6 buildings to be sold in 3 days. When the Greens was being formed, which is now a complex of 40 buildings, and this I'm not taking into consideration the views or the links or panorama, the new towers at the back. 20 buildings came. A couple of months later, 20 new buildings were sold. So 40 buildings were sold in a span of a couple of months. When you look at today's market and the way Offplan has been since 2016, it's been at an all-time high. People have been snapping up not to park their money, but to actually own assets. And I'd say about 45% of those have been end users, whereas 55% have been investors. Currently, we will see a huge inventory in Dubai in the next 6 months, as you were to call it, because most of the major government as well as private developers will be handing over their products and projects which have been scheduled in 2019 and first quarter 2020. Having said that, those have already been sold to end users or investors. Now, the end users and investors already had a certain target in mind. That's when we come into the migration process as well. I mean, will we see a lot of migration coming from Abu Dhabi to Dubai and going into the other Emirates or vice versa? Uh, I don't feel that uh, it is challenging to say that the oversupply can be managed and will be absorbed, because in light of what's happening and in lieu of the current situation, once borders open, I feel that you will see a big influx again in UAE, and a lot of people would want to take advantage of the way things are. Whether it's a secondary market or the primary market, people want to make Dubai a second home, being one of the safest countries in the world right now.
Definitely, and I have the same opinion that the supply is there, and it might be a short-term effect, like 6 months to 12 months,
Yeah,
where we will have a large supply, but the demand is always catches up. In
yeah,
in a city like this, and the examples you gave of places like the Marina, even places like JLT, downtown, all of these
yeah,
places at that point in time, people would have thought, why are they building this? There's not enough people for that. Oh, it's far,
absolutely.
or whatever. Those same kind of things. And then you look 5-10 years down the line, and those places are full, and you're wondering where the next part of that is coming. And
Yeah.
that's what I see. I just think as more and more projects come out, the projects that differentiate are going to be much more important than just having a blanket approach to like
No, absolutely. No, you're absolutely correct and right when you said that. But the way I see it, coming back to a previous point about oversupply, what I feel is that a lot of master communities have already been launched in the past 2 years. And within the master communities, we have a lot to offer. Whether it's a government developer or it's a private developer, you know, um, a lot of stock has been sold. Yes, developers are holding on to stock, and they'll keep repackaging it and sort of, changing the product type a little bit and give it back to the public. And the public has been absorbing it. I mean, if there's a building that was supposed to be pure hotel apartments and now it's been sold as furnished apartments on a slightly better payment plan, someone who couldn't afford it back then is now snapping up 2 units because there's been a price reduction or there's been a elongated payment plan. So they will always, like you said, you repackage it, you make it slightly better, there's always demand.
Definitely. And I think, yeah, something I wanted to talk to you about is that demand. So obviously we have the local market, which is where we're focusing a lot at the moment, considering the current situation. But especially over the last few years, there's been a large number of international investors. I know you do like a lot of road shows and
Yeah.
work in the malls and stuff. What kind of benefit have you found in doing these kind of events in these foreign countries?
Well, I'll be honest with you. We have had our highs and lows. We have done a lot of roadshows in Europe, in Africa, Russia, Ukraine. And when I say Africa, I mean we've gone to at least about 6 different countries in Africa. And yes, we've been successful because when we're going out there, uh, and I would like to only talk about my company. When we're going out there, we're looking at making 100 million dirhams. So when you come back with a 10 million dirham sale, when you look at the pros and cons and what you spent and what you got out of it, it's always been positive. Uh, there was only one time where we were a little stuck in Ukraine. There was a language barrier. We didn't have enough people, and we came back with zero sale, which was very funny because we had spent a lot of money on this particular event. We came back with zero sale, but funny enough, 3 months later, we ended up selling to 3 of the people who showed up, and 90 people showed up, 3 were sold. So if you ask me about break even, I would have broken even with selling half a client. But 3 months later, 3 sales, it was good enough.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the way forward here in Dubai as well for attracting international clients over to the property here, because the ROIs that we were talking about before are generally much higher than in other major cities like say a London or a Singapore,
Oh,
Hong
absolutely.
Kong.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely attracting people here, and the city itself is just getting more and more coverage worldwide. So whereas
Yes.
people might not have known about it before or not thought about traveling here, with the the routing through something like Emirates, and people stopping over, and the word of mouth, social media of people talking about Dubai more, I can only see the country growing more and more international investors looking to either live here or have a second home.
Yep.
Well,
So you're absolutely right.
where do you think are the best countries to target in terms of like international clients? I know you're talking about Africa and Ukraine there, but Chinese is obviously one that people say.
Oh,
But what's
yes.
your opinion?
I'll be honest with you. I saw a huge influx of China post 2016. I mean, yes, they've been snapping up the rest of the world for the past decade. I mean, if you look at any of the capital cities, whether it's Beijing, Tokyo, London, New York, LA, you have that 2 to 3% of ultra high net worth individuals who've snapped up blocks and mansions in a, or buildings in a particular area. But when it comes to Dubai, I'd say the influx was back in 2016 to date. So even right now, the sales I was talking about that happened, we had a Chinese buyer last week.
Yeah.
So the Chinese will not necessarily move anywhere because they're buying in strategic locations around the globe. So that'll always be a hot market. Locals and Saudis will always buy, but locals are, of course, homegrown. What I have seen is when I came earlier point, Africans, Chinese, a lot of UK expats have been purchasing as well in the past year. Roadshows have been very successful over there. We've opened up an office over there as well just over a year ago. And what we have realized is that if you were to tell me to put it top three, I'd put it China, Africa, and then including UK, I'd put parts of Europe.
Okay.
People want to own a part of Dubai. That's what it is to them.
Definitely. Okay, so that's great, Siki. I know you're doing a kind of top three of your international clients. Kind of transitions me into a segment that we do on the show. It's a top five that I do with guests on here. And I wanted to ask you, since I know you work more on the Offplan side, for a top five projects, but I've got different categories. So five categories. I want the best, what you think in each category. So the first one I wanted to ask you, what project or building has the best payment plan?
Well, I would definitely put it at downtown right now. I would put it potentially at Address Opera. I mean, you've got like almost a 6.5-year payment plan because it's 5-year post handover. You're getting value for money. It is in the vicinity of the opera. You just can't go wrong. It is the city center. It is where all the action happens. You just won't go wrong. And with handovers at 2021 and 2022 beginning, you've got almost a 7-year spread, 6.5, 7-year spread. It's almost having a 10-year mortgage with the bank, as opposed to having a 6.5-year payment plan with the developer. I don't think it gets better than that.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Yeah, that's for anyone who doesn't know, in the Opera district, next to and really close by to the Dubai Mall and the Burj Khalifa as well, isn't it?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, the next criteria is best location. Where do you think is the best location, in your opinion, for Offplan at the moment?
To be very honest, I would like to stick to Emaar beachfront. The reason why I say that is because Dubai has sort of molded itself as a very touristic city. And what people love about Dubai is the sunny beaches. Now, you have 2-3 products which have been around in Dubai for the past 20 years. Dubai Marina, Palm Jumeirah. They will always hold their value. They have been there. But as you know better than anyone else, because you have been an integral part of this industry now for over a year or so, people want to have something new every day. So when it comes to Dubai, sunny beaches, it has to be a new beachfront project. So I would stick to Emaar beachfront because there's about 10 different projects on that particular island, one better than the other one.
100%. I think it's a great project. It's going to take a bit of time to come up, but once it's
Yeah.
there, it's definitely going to hold its value because it's primarily located, and that's the question I was obviously asking you. Right by where the cruise terminals are going to be, and there aren't so many buildings. It's not like a Dubai marina where there's hundreds of buildings. There aren't that
Absolutely.
many in that. So once it's done, it's not like they can extend more buildings and add more
Exactly.
supply into that area. Those are what is available in that area, and it's like a Miami Strip for anyone who isn't aware of it.
That's it. I mean, it's like ocean. It's like Ocean Drive in Miami, like you called it. But people always keep asking, what if they're going to build something in front of me, or what if they block my view? But that can't happen because the way it's been structured, it's you've got a diagonal of Palm Jumeirah on your right side, and then you've got the Blue Waters Island on your left side. So the space you have in the middle is going to be a panoramic view. It's going to be one of the best views to have in Dubai.
Definitely, and around it is obviously the marina that they're going to have there with the cruise terminals. So talking about the tourism, it's perfect in terms of that. And for looking at short-term rentals, obviously not right at this moment, but if you're looking to maximize your return, it's the ideal place in Dubai for a short-term rental property.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. What about for ROI? So I was just talking about short-term rentals. Where do you think is a great place for people to get an off-plan property that's going to give them really good ROI or the best ROI?
To be honest with you, when it comes to ROI and it's off-plan, I'd rather like to stick with fixed return products. And when I say that, there's been a couple of products offered in the market for the past couple of years, which are guaranteed returns, whether it's hotel space or whether it's a mixed-use residential building. They sort of have been tingling the appetite of the consumers for the past couple of years. So in this case, I would say that the mark has been offering a 5-year guaranteed return of 8% of one of their products, which is a fully furnished building. So I would like to give it to the Radisson in the Mark Hills, because it looks like if I'm getting paid 40% of my investment to me over 5 years, that just means I'm burning my pocket or my capital flows lesser.
Definitely,
So
I think
that would be the one.
That's a good answer, and a good location as well, Damac Hills, in terms of
absolutely.
the project that's there. What about for an end user? So rather than an investor, if someone's looking for a property to use themselves, what do you think is a good option?
That you caught me off guard there, because there's too many of them, to be honest. Well, I mean, to be very fair, end users, and me being an end user myself, like you, they want the comfort of their home and a sanctum. So I'd be very wrong if I were to just put it on a particular product, because end users, you caught me off guard there. But when I look at a villa, end user product could be the new District 1 villas that are coming up, which is the new phase, because it's slightly better priced. I think the space has been used a little better than the older, huge District 1 mansions and the 4 bedrooms. The prices were ridiculous. They were back in the day starting at about 12.5, then they came down to just under 8 million. So the new phase of the District 1 villas, that is what I would say when it comes to independent villas. When it comes to end users for apartments, I would put them at a couple of buildings, Mulberry and Acacia in Dubai Hills Estate.
Okay. Nicely.
Because it's the right space.
Yeah, situated on the park, and they have good internal space, don't they?
Yep, absolutely. And again, I mean, it was very selfish of me to say that, but I should throw La Mer in the mix as well, because again, great low-rise development, smack on the beach, beautiful location in Jumeirah. So yes, these 2-3 developers, I mean, they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly how to package the right product for the consumer for their needs.
Definitely. And well, you've mentioned a few communities there. So we were talking about Dubai Hills Estate, District 1,
Yeah.
the Mac Hills you mentioned before. Where do you think is the best place or the best overall community in Dubai?
Are we focusing just on Offplan, or do we have
Offplan. Go for Offplan, please.
Offplan? Offplan. To be honest, I'd want to put it at Dubai Hills Estate. Reason being location. I mean, apart from the MR badge being there, the mall, it's a semi-commercial district. There's already schools up and running. There's hospitals. Uh, if you were to talk about a destination or a community, best practice community in Dubai, you'd only look at one thing, which was known as Emirates Living, which is greens, meadows, springs, lakes, and Emirates Hills, and the Montgomery Golf Course, and the new Vida Hills. This particular package would be known as the best community, A, because it's got a good mix of products, it's got a vibrant community, it's got the greenery, it's got the water feature. So packaged properly. Dubai Hills Estate turns out to be Emirates Living, but 10 times better. So it's got everything that Emirates Living had, but they've made it 10 times better and they've made it bigger. So that is why you've seen Dubai Hills Estate sell out really fast over the past 3 years, whether it was apartments or it was the huge mansions. And your entry point is at about 700,000 dirhams in Dubai Hills Estate for a small one bedroom, whereas your high ultra net worth individuals have snapped up places for about 120 million dirhams, which have a built up of about 30,000 square feet.
Yeah, in Hillsborough. That's the great part of Dubai Hills Estate, and I probably agree with you in terms of the location, just because there's literally something for everyone, from like you said, 700,000 up to the really huge mansions in the golf course, and there's amenities that are unrivaled in other areas compared to other communities. Okay, Siki, thanks for those choices in terms of those top 5 categories I've given you. That's all I want to ask you today. If you want to just give anyone listening, like your social media handles, what you do, just so they can be aware.
No, to all the people, Lloyd has been a great friend, and he's come up very quickly in this market. I'd like to tell everyone, I mean, yes, we'll have the social media handles and all that, but you got to keep moving. You can't be down because the market has come to a standstill. You know better, Lloyd. You are a great example. You've never slowed down. You've always tried to do things differently. But in this market, if you're going to sit around and sulk and wait for the market to change, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. I've seen this happen twice before, in 2008, in 2012, when there was a recession. Unfortunately, we're not in a recession. We're in a wait game where there's status quo around the globe. It's a global pandemic. So we will come to the correct stature of business as and when. No one's Houdini. But what I would like to tell people is to keep moving. There's better opportunities coming our way.
Definitely, that's a great message to tell people, and keep going forward. Otherwise, we're going to get nowhere. Basically, as individuals and as a collective in the globe. Okay. Anyway, thanks for coming on, Siki, and please check.
Anytime, Lloyd.
No problem, and check out our other episodes of Realtor Talk. Thanks for watching.
All right. Thank you.
Bye bye.